As we come to this 33rd Sunday in the ordinary time, the liturgical calendar of the year, we come kind of to the end, as we do every year, end of this liturgical year. Next Sunday will be the 34th Sunday, but it's the Solemnity of Christ the King. And then the Sunday after that, first Sunday of Advent, and we start over again. And as we come to the end of the liturgical calendar every year, we start hearing these passages about the end times and the things that will happen, the day of judgment, the last things, death, judgment, heaven, hell. And these are the last things that are there. They're undeniable. And I have to say, it makes it a challenge to preach on these things, right? It's not like you want to welcome people, and this is the Sunday I'm going to talk about these things, but this too is God's revelation. So there is something here for us that is life-giving in the midst of all this, and that's what we want to find. As we read the scriptures today, and hopefully every day of our lives, we look for that. What is life-giving in this for me today in my life? So we have the picture painted by the apostles. They're there, and they're looking at Jesus. They're with him. They're looking at the temple. Malachi, in the first reading, speaks about this temple because the people of Israel had just come back from the Babylonian exile. Well, not just come back, some years before. They had just finished rebuilding the temple, the second temple, and it was a magnificent work of architecture and art, even for people who were not part of the chosen people, the Jewish people. They would consider that a great wonder of the world, this temple. And Jesus then appears and says, yeah, this whole thing is going to fall down. Not a stone will be left upon a stone. Well, that's shocking to them, right? To the listeners who are there. And they're wondering, what is it with this? And then the immediate question becomes, as it does for all of us, okay, so when is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? So I make sure that day I'm not in the temple, because the last thing is I want some stones falling on my head. Maybe that day I won't be around. We want to know when, the date of the end, and that's in keeping with anything that we do. We want to have some kind of mile markers as we go on in life. And we have those, right, throughout our life. High school graduation, college graduation, first job, graduate school, all these things, we have mile markers. And then we have yearly reviews in our work, and we have these mile markers. They're just marking where we're going, and we just have to think, okay, how do I get it to the next marker, the next small finish line? So let's look at this passage and maybe take it apart and look at it in different aspects. The first thing that our Lord is trying to make very clear as he considers these last four things, for us to be aware that let us not be deceived by what really is the illusion of permanence. The illusion of permanence. This idea that some things are going to be here forever that are really not. They're not. And so we can go down the list. One of those, as we get older, certainly feel it. I think, in maybe less than 2 months, I'll turn 50. I already feel the aches and pains. The health, integrity of body, not there. It's fading. It started fading a while back, but it's fading. We feel the aches and pains. Studies, we work so hard in our studies. One day you will take your last exam and that'll be done with. And then after that, few people will care what class you took your sophomore year or whatever, fall semester. It won't matter. Career, we pursue that as well, but hopefully, God willing, if God gives us the years, then we'll retire from that. And somebody, I hate to break it to you, but somebody will come after you, might do a better job. Just saying, it's the way the world goes. That, things do get better in the professional world. So all these things, they pass. And even the great temple, it is no longer there. It too passes. In fact, it was just not too many years after Christ said these words that it was razed to the ground by the Romans. And too, it was gone. One of the dangers in persevering, which is the main message of the gospel today, by your perseverance you will secure your lives, is that we're persevering in the things that stand, the things that remain, the things that are eternal. Because we persevere on things that are passing. When it passes, it can really put us in crisis. What was I pursuing in my life? Those things are not permanent. So let us wake up, open our eyes, and see, okay, this illusion of permanence in my life, what are those things that I pursue, that I am seeking to persevere in, and in fact will not be there forever, and they will pass? That doesn't mean I don't care about those things. No, but I pursue them understanding that they are not my final goal. They pass. So let me pursue that with the level of excellence that I'm used to. Let me go for it. And yet knowing that is a mile marker, that is not the finish line. The illusion of permanence. Second, the reality that Christ mentions here, he talks of tribulation. He talks of suffering. This is something that he can apply as well to his own life, because he comes in, if the temple is the place where God is present, well, certainly in Jesus Christ, God is present, for he very much is God. And so his own body will suffer this on the cross. And it's a reminder that love requires the cross. There's no such thing as a comfortable, final judgment, a comfortable messianism, a version of faith that's kind of like, it's comfy, and let's make sure your coffee's warm enough and your seat is comfortable enough and everything is good. We were not born for comfort. If you didn't know that, now we know. We were not born for comfort. We're born for love. And love often requires the cross. It requires sacrifice. It requires forgiving. Sometimes people who otherwise would seem not to deserve forgiveness. It requires that. It requires dying to myself and my own opinions. Love requires humility, which is not pretty. It just never is. But it is pleasing to God. Most important, love endures. And because it endures, I embrace it. Love must be purified in order to be free. If we seek God without a cross, what ends up happening is not that we find God. What ends up happening is that we end up with crosses without God. And those are too heavy to carry. We need to seek God and realize this will involve the cross. And my perseverance is seeing the tribulation not as the end, but as a road. It's a road that brings me ultimately to God. And lastly, and so important then, perseverance. How do we persevere? What's the key to persevering? I was thinking about this a few days ago on Friday, realizing that Thanksgiving is too busy. I wasn't going to be able to go visit my parents in Puerto Rico, so I decided last Tuesday to fly early and then come back Friday. So I was with them, I had a great time with my parents, nice catching up with them, and then headed over to the airport and got there early enough, returned the car, and then I check everything out, I look at the TSA line, I have my pre-check so I know I can, get in there fast, and there were like 5 people waiting in line. And I said, okay, this is great, I have enough time. It's a nice sandwich shop outside of security, which I really like. And I said, okay, I'm gonna have my nice sandwich before I go in. So I go and get my sandwich, finish half an hour before boarding. And I get in the line, there may be 5 people in front of me. And I get there, and I realize something, I don't think I've ever seen this, where the line it doesn't move. And then 5 minutes go by, and it hasn't moved, and 10 minutes go by, and it just has not moved, and behind me are a lot more people now. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? And we've been in similar situations where you're seeing this, and now, in those situations, one thing I know is don't make a scene. It doesn't end up well. If you make a scene at the airport, not good. You're still not getting on the plane, right? So I was like, okay. So I'm sitting there, and I'm looking around, and watching everybody kind of flip out, and it's like, I'm gonna miss my flight, and I'm looking, and then it's boarding time, and then I get the little notification, your zone is now boarding. I was like, without me, because I'm standing here. And we've been in a situation. It's either something like that, or it's being stuck in traffic. And a few things happen. We become frustrated because my goal is to get on that plane, because I have a layover in Atlanta, and then I have to land in Raleigh at 12:30 at night, so that I can celebrate Mass at the Falcon Arena House at 9 a.m. So all these things start going in my head, and then give a talk after that. I'm thinking, man, if I miss this flight, already, it was gonna be a very short night of sleep, but this is gonna be problematic. So you become frustrated. And it can be the same thing. You're stuck in traffic, you have an appointment, and you realize you're not gonna make it, or it seems like you're not gonna make it. And it's frustrating too, because you don't know the why. Isn't that true? Like, we're stuck in traffic, and it's almost like I wish I had my personal drone I can throw up in the air with a camera, and it's like, oh, that's what's going on. But no, you don't know. You're just stuck there. And you look around, and other employees are not doing anything to help your cause, and this frustration builds up. But it's in moments like that we have to, that's a great opportunity, where we are stuck and things seem not to work out, and it seems like my goal, I'm not going to reach it. Getting on the plane and flying back, making an appointment, whatever it is, it's not going to happen. Is moments like that, stop and remember that getting on that flight, making the appointment, whatever it is not our final goal. Yes, it's okay to have these intermediate goals. I have to get and celebrate Mass the next day. Intermediate goals, they're not the final goal. Because what is the final goal? And brothers and sisters, this is what gives meaning to those moments, the little moments of tribulation. Because we realize our final goal is our sanctification, our communion with God, of becoming what He is by nature that we might become by grace. So being stuck in traffic or in a mysterious TSA line, to be stuck there is a moment, it's like, oh man, I guess this is where I grow in patience. This is where I grow in mercy. And just look around. This is where I just put perspective that I will not be judged at the end of my life if I got on that plane or not. I will be judged in how much I loved in the midst of tribulation. Again, it's not that those things don't matter, but it's proper perspective. This is just a mile marker. It is not the finish line. So let us every day, and I certainly the next time I fly out of Puerto Rico, I will not get that sandwich, or I'll get there a lot earlier. You learn and you do the things so that you do better. But at the end, that is not my biggest decision, my biggest goal in life is getting on that plane or making that appointment or whatever it is. You can apply that to any difficulty in our life that we don't understand the why. And those moments say, what is God asking of me here? How can I grow in holiness? How can I grow in grace and in virtue? Eventually, I did make the flight. It was really nice. The airline even called me, hey, we're waiting for you, which doesn't really happen. So I don't know if that was that's guardian angels that I was praying to. It was like, go, stop that door. Made the flight and everything worked out. Doesn't always work out, but this time it did. But the bigger thing is for us to ask ourselves, did I make the most of that opportunity to grow? This is perseverance. Persevering in the thing that's the most important. Perseverance is not one big, grand, heroic action that I take, this huge gesture made only once or a few times. Perseverance, it's that steady, quiet, daily labor of living out your vocation, your call to Christian holiness, whether as a student, as a parent, as a spouse, as a professional, whatever it is, every day. To work it out. It's a commitment to do the good day after day, the commitment to do the good today without weariness, recognizing that this humble persistence is in of itself a profound form of discipleship, that it is here that we love. As we come to the close of the liturgical year and prepare to welcome the season of Advent, Christ gives us one final exam. Do you trust that I am present even in the ruins, even when the temple has collapsed, even stuck on I-40 in traffic, even in a TSA line that's not moving? Do you trust that I am present? As we go on this week, maybe a takeaway for all of us here is to be mindful that the quality of our life is determined not by the dramas that we face day after day, but simply this, the quiet persistence with which we love day after day.